All right, everyone, welcome. Hello. Welcome, everyone. How is everyone doing? Happy Saturday. I am tired as hell. Stayed up until almost like 1:30 last night playing that game. I don't know what happened. The time just got away from me. So I got up about 8. So I didn't get my 9 or 10 hours of sleep, but I'm doing okay. I had some Dr. Pepper to perk me up, but I'm doing okay. Yeah, it does. It really, I don't know where the time went. I was thinking about getting to bed about midnight or so, but, you know, I looked and it's like, it's about 1 o'clock. Holy crap. That's okay. I got some stuff done. I'm awake. And I'm here. How's everyone's Saturday doing? We started watching MasterChef, which started out in like 2010. It's with Gordon Ramsay taking amateur chefs and putting them through a competition. And it's pretty, the way they do it, the music is pretty intense. So it's been interesting. Well, my wife and I will watch stuff like that since we don't have too much in common as far as what we enjoy. Like science fiction, fantasy, violence, that sort of a thing. So that's the sort of stuff we watch. MasterChef. So you think you can dance, top model, bunch of stuff like that. Yes. And, playing games too. I suck at all the games too. So that makes it even worse. Like I've restarted this game quite a few times. Just, get to a certain point. I learn a bunch of stuff, restart again, and try and do better and better as I go. And, try to do better. Although that's, considering asking a lot, because, it's me. All right. Does anyone have anything before we get started? Maybe even Girly Bear will pop in early. That'd be kind of cool too. Okay, this is just annoying. Anything? Okay, let's get started here. We've got one or two COVID things, and then we'll get into some other stuff. So first, this is in NBC News, and when is this from? This is from today. CDC. Fully vaccinated people can travel in U.S. without tests or quarantines. Ultimately, the guidance may do little, as people are already traveling extensively nationwide. So this, I think, is ridiculous, honestly. I mean, with B117 here, as we've been talking about, contagious. I honestly think this is just politics with the Biden administration wanting to win, wanting to seem like, hey, everything's back to normal, right? Even though he's going to end up endangering people's lives with this. I can't imagine any doctors honestly thinking this is what we need to be doing. This is honestly the CDC bowing to political pressure from the Biden administration to make them look good. But let's read. We'll see what happens. People who are fully vaccinated against COVID-19 can travel freely in the U.S. as long as they remain masked on planes, buses, and trains, the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention announced Friday. It is unclear how much impact the new guidance will have. People are already traveling and making decisions on their own. American Airlines reported Monday that the company's bookings have jumped 90% of what they were before the pandemic. Yikes. The new guidance means that fully vaccinated grandparents can fly to visit their healthy grandkids without getting a COVID-19 test or self-quarantining, provided they follow the other recommended prevention measures. CDC Director Dr. Rochelle Walensky said Friday during a news briefing. Still, the number of COVID-19 cases continues to rise, which means this makes no fucking sense at all. The current 7-day average of new cases is slightly above 62,000 cases per day. While fully vaccinated people may travel at low risk, Walensky said, CDC is not recommending travel at this time due to rising number of cases. Okay. Well, then why the fuck are you recommending it? Oh my God. But see here, but it isn't low risk. They can still get it. they can still get it and they can still transmit it. The risk isn't low. The vaccine just reduces your potential symptoms so that it doesn't kill you or put you in the hospital. It doesn't necessarily prevent you from getting sick. It is expected that the U.S. will surpass 100 million people who have received at least one dose of vaccine Friday. More than 56 million Americans are fully vaccinated, according to the CDC. A person is considered fully vaccinated 2 weeks after their last dose of COVID-19 vaccine. Okay, so that is important. 2 weeks following the second dose. That gives the body enough time to build antibodies against the virus. I thought it was more like 3 weeks, but they're saying 2 weeks here. So the latest guidance offers another step toward resuming normal activity for those who have received both doses of Pfizer, BioNTech, or Moderna shots, or one of the single-dose vaccines, or one shot of the single-dose vaccine from Johnson & Johnson. Yeah, that is important to note, that the Johnson & Johnson one is a single-dose vaccine. The CDC, I didn't share this. Okay, hold on. Hold on. If I don't do this, you guys need to tell me. I'm bad. I'm bad. Come on. There we go. All right, the CDC said COVID-19 tests are no longer required for fully vaccinated people before or after a trip within the U.S., and there is no need for them to self-quarantine. The guidance doesn't mention whether people need proof of vaccination to travel, though no U.S. airlines currently require such documentation. The same rules apply to vaccinated people traveling internationally, with some exceptions. Some destination countries may require a negative COVID-19 test for entry, and the CDC recommends people test negative before coming back to the U.S. This should be the way it is. If you enter or leave a country, you should be testing negative, because I mean, if you're not tested, you may have it, and it may be taking it to other places. That's one of the reasons why some of these island countries have been successful at pretty much controlling COVID, is because they've said, well, if you enter the country, you're going to be quarantined and tested, and then you can go on, then we can decide from there. And mitigation measures remain even for vaccinated travels. Wear masks, avoid large crowds, and wash hands frequently. Indeed, all U.S. airlines still require passengers to wear masks. But here's what sort of masks? If it's just these fucking cloth masks, those are basically useless. It's 3 to 5% effectiveness versus an actual N95 mask, which is 95%. If you're in such close confines and you're wearing a fucking cloth mask, you're basically not doing anything. 2 people wearing a mask is what, a 10% reduction. So there's still a 90% chance you can catch it or transmit it to others. Hello? Taking prevention measures to stop the spread of COVID-19 is the path out of this pandemic, Walensky said, even though that's not what they're doing. CDC has been slowly offering guidance on what people can do once fully vaccinated. In early March, the agency said they may safely gather with small groups from other households without wearing masks or physically distancing, even if those people have not yet had their shots, which is patently ridiculous. Ridiculous. So that is a thing here in the U.S. Go us, right? All right, so there's that. Next, now we're talking about testing, even though they're not requiring it, which is patently ridiculous. This is this is March 24th, so this is, about a week ago. A little bit behind, but not so bad. Girly Bear, you did make it. Woo! How you doing? Yeah, Quiet Mercenary and Gaming Mind made it early, and I was wondering if you'd make it up early too. How you doing? Did I do that already? I did that already. Good, I'm good. Yeah, I stayed up to like 1:30 last night playing a game. Time got away from me last night. I don't know what happened. The gaming whirlpool, the time vortex got me. But I'm doing okay. I had some soda this morning to perk me up, but I'm doing okay. Doing okay. How are you today? How's your weekend? Did I share this? I don't think I shared this. Working. Well, that's a bunch of crap. Working on a weekend? Did that share? It's not sharing. Why aren't you sharing? Yeah, I know. Working every day. Hopefully you get a break every once in a while. All right, come on, share. It's not sharing the link. Is this having issues? Yeah, things aren't getting from YouTube. Is it getting over here? Son of a bitch. All right, this Restream's not sharing my links. Hold on. Oh, there we go. Finally came through. From YouTube. Bizarre. Okay. All right. So, this is about a week old. U.S. needs to expand rapid COVID-19 testing, experts say. The U.S. needs to ramp up the use of rapid COVID-19 testing in order to curb the pandemic and prepare for reopening, two public health experts said on Wednesday during an Axios virtual event. Why it matters. Experts warned that vaccinations likely do not provide long-term immunity and that the pandemic is far from over. Jennifer Nuzzo of Johns Hopkins and Michael Mina of Harvard's Kennedy School of Public Health say mass testing will be imperative to tracking outbreaks and containing the virus in the coming months. Yes, testing is good. Quarantining is good, right? Not traveling with a whole bunch of people who are wearing pathetic masks, right? Testing informs our understanding of what's going on at all levels, from the personal, knowing that today is not the day to go and visit my vulnerable relatives because I'm infected, to national, trying to understand, is the situation in the U.S. getting better? Is it worse? Nuzzo said. We need rapid tests that are ubiquitous and that we can use in lots of different places and at a volume that will enable repeat testing. And we also need them to be much more inexpensive than they are right now, Nuzzo said. And also yesterday we found out that there's a strain in, I want to say, was it France? Where it isn't detected by the standard testing, although there's at least one test on the market that does pick it up. So, we have to keep up on the different COVID variants, but also have our testing be able to detect the different variants as well. Otherwise, people could have it. They could be asymptomatic and have it, or they could be sick and they say, well, it must just, since we do not detect COVID-19 using the standard test, then you might not have it. And that could be very, very incorrect. Some of the cheapest rapid tests are about $5 each, which is extraordinarily low cost in the scheme of things, and particularly compared to laboratory testing, she added. But there are 15 million public school children in the U.S., and so even if you were to test all of the little ones, that would be a prohibitive cost. In the midst of a pandemic, we can switch the purpose of testing from just purely diagnostic tests to actually a test that's going to help mitigate spread at the community level. The only way to make that a reality is to get the test away from being prescription use only, make them smaller, simpler, and tests that people can be using at home, Mina said. That would be awesome. Be able to test yourself at home. Mina also supported the use of rapid at-home COVID-19 tests as schools and workplaces reopen, even though at-home tests may not be as accurate as laboratory testing. If you can get something super cheap that, is accurate-ish, at least if you get a positive, you most likely have to, and then maybe you can go to the doctor and get tested. But if it does come back negative, that may not be true, unless you test yourself multiple times. If people walking into that building use a test at home before work or at the doorway before school, whatever that might be, it can reduce any chances of spread, say 90%, and that is a major win. It's not perfect, but nothing in this pandemic is perfect, but a reduction by 90% would be a massive benefit to make everyone feel safer. All right, you can do it. Share. All right, it is not sharing. Restream is not cooperating. Why aren't you sharing? Doo-da, doo-da. So share it in YouTube. And see if it pops up. All right, we've covered this one a little bit before. It's been quite a while, since probably early in the pandemic when we read an article on this, that COVID-19 can cause tinnitus in some people. If tinnitus is like this buzzing sound, this high-pitched sound in your ear that doesn't go away. Let's see here. When is this from? What's the date on this? Come on, people. Give me a date. Talking COVID, we need a date. April 1st. Here we go. So, yeah, this is just a few days ago. All right. Among the common symptoms of long COVID are dizziness, tinnitus, and ear pain, according to National Institute of Health and Care Excellence in the UK. Other viral infections include rubella, measles, and cytomegalovirus. Also are known to cause hearing problems, but research into possible links between COVID-19 and hearing issues remain at an early stage. In June 2020, specialists at the Manchester Centre for Audiology and Deafness, MANCAD, in the UK reviewed 7 studies that hinted at a link between hearing and balance, or audiovestibular, problems and COVID-19. At that time, however, the quality of the evidence supporting a possible association was poor. Same researchers have now updated their view to include 56 studies published in 2020. Although the evidence remains tentative, the researchers have estimated the prevalence of audiovestibular problems among people who have recovered from SARS-CoV-2 infection. Their analysis suggests that around 14.8% of patients experience tinnitus, or ringing in the ears. 7.6% have hearing loss, and 7.2% have rotary vertigo, which is a sensation of spinning. The authors emphasized that these figures may overestimate the true scale of the problem. This is because the reports that they review do not always make it clear whether the symptoms were new or whether they were pre-existing symptoms that had temporarily become worse. I'll check Twitch here just to make sure I'm not missing anything, because it's just not coming through.
Retreats, food and toys. I love that.
Nope, quiet. Don't want to hear it. Nope, still quiet. Okay. In addition, most of the studies were based on medical records or questionnaires in which patients reported their own symptoms rather than the appropriate hearing test. There is an urgent need for a carefully conducted clinical and diagnostical study to understand the long-term effects of COVID-19 on the auditory system, says senior author Kevin Monroe, professor of audiology at ManCAD. Though this review provides further evidence for an association, the studies we looked at were of varying quality, so more work needs to be done, he adds. Professor Monroe is leading a year-long study in the UK that will compare control patients with patients who recovered after being hospitalized with COVID-19. He and his colleagues hope to get a more accurate picture of the incidence and severity of COVID-19 related hearing issues, as well as which parts of the auditory system are affected. They will also investigate possible associations between audiovestibular problems and other factors such as lifestyle, other medical conditions, and the treatments the patients received in intensive care. All right, so as you can see, it is a thing. Where did it go? There it is, okay. Just to be aware of. COVID-19 can cause tinnitus, among the many other things. Death, brain damage, heart damage, lung damage, tinnitus, ear damage, and I think there's one other thing that might also be possible too, which I do not remember. But it's there. Long-term COVID. All right. Now we're moving out of COVID. Into U.S. imperialism. Good stuff. Okay, that got through. Cool. All right, so here, as drone whistleblower Daniel Hale pleads guilty, advocates warn of profound threat to free press. Now, this is probably a very similar issue to, of course, Julian Assange, right? Chelsea Manning and all those sorts of other people, the various whistleblowers with which the Espionage Act is being used against in order to silence them so that they don't show the ridiculous harms caused by U.S. imperialism and other bullshit that we do. Using the Espionage Act in this way to prosecute journalists, sources as spies, chills news gathering, and discourages sources from coming forward with information in the public interest. Exactly. That's exactly right. And how the free press in the United States is protected by the First Amendment to the Constitution. And this is not good. Press freedom, peace, and human rights advocates are rallying behind Daniel Hale, the former intelligence analyst who blew the whistle on the U.S. government's drone assassination program and who pleaded guilty Wednesday in federal court to violating the Espionage Act. The Washington Post reports Hale, who was set to go on trial next week, pleaded guilty to a single count of violating the 1917 law that has been used to target whistleblowers, including Julian Assange, John Kiriakou, Chelsea Manning, Edward Snowden, Jeffrey Sterling, Reality Winner, and others. Hale was charged in 2019 during the Trump administration after he leaked classified information on the U.S. government's targeted assassination program to a reporter who, according to the documents, matches the description of The Intercept founding editor Jeremy Scahill. He is the first person to face sentencing for an Espionage Act offense during the administration of President Joe Biden. Of course, Democrats, imperialists, how much is going to change? As vice president under President Barack Obama, Biden contributed to the creation of the whistleblower protections, the Dodd-Frank Wall Street Reform and Consumer Protection Act, while simultaneously serving in an administration that, while promising a new era of open government, relentlessly targeted individuals who revealed U.S. war crimes and other classified information. Right? Outrageous that drone whistleblower Daniel Hale will be going to prison for exposing the drone murders by the U.S. military. Why don't the murderers go to jail? Or the ones who okay the murders? Or the ones who make the killer drones and profit from murder? Good questions. Kiriakou, a former CIA agent who under Obama was sentenced to 30 months imprisonment for exposing U.S. torture, told Kevin Gosztola that he is disappointed that Daniel Hale's case was continued in the Biden Justice Department. I had hopes that Biden's Justice Department appointee would recognize the public service that Daniel Hale provided when he revealed illegality and abuse in the drone program, said Kiriakou. Hale, who was an intelligence analyst for the U.S. Air Force, began before moving on to the National Security Agency and the National Geospatial Intelligence Agency, knowingly took highly classified documents and disclosed them without authorization, thereby violating his solemn obligations to our country, according to a statement from Raj Parekh, the acting U.S. attorney for the Eastern District of Virginia. Well, that's kind of what a whistleblower does, right? Does he have protections or not? It's not a whistleblower whenever it's just convenient for you. Shame on the Obama DOJ for launching this investigation. Shame on the Trump DOJ for bringing these charges. And shame on the Biden DOJ for continuing it. Stand with Daniel Hale, as do countless journalists, whistleblowers, and former government officials. That's the Defending Rights and Dissent Twitter account. Using the Espionage Act in this way to prosecute journalist sources as spies chills. Okay, we already read that one. All right, according to Gosztola, Hale's whistleblowing led to the revelation by The Intercept that nearly half of the people on the U.S. government's widely shared database of terrorist suspects are not connected to any known terrorist group. Details on how the Obama administration approved targeted assassinations and information about Bilal el-Berjawi, a Briton who was stripped of his citizenship before being killed in a U.S. drone strike in 2012. Yeah, so they stripped him of his citizenship so that way they can kill him and not create an international incident. Good stuff. No cooperation there, right? The Post reports that Hale admitted in court to writing an anonymous chapter in Scahill's 2016 book, The Assassination Complex Inside the Government's Secret Drone Warfare Program, which divulged information taken from top secret documents about drone strike protocols, civilian casualties, and Pentagon officials' debate about the accuracy of intelligence. These documents detailed a secret, unaccountable process for targeting and killing people around the world, including U.S. citizens, through drone strikes. Betsy Reed, editor-in-chief of The Intercept, said after Hale's indictment, they are of vital public importance, and activity related to their disclosure is protected by the First Amendment. Exactly. Blah, blah, blah. Hale had initially centered his defense on First Amendment grounds, and his numerous defenders condemned his prosecution as a violation of press freedom and freedom of speech. His lawyer, Jesslyn Radek, issued a statement saying the U.S. government's policy on punishing people who provide journalists with information in the public interest is a profound threat to free speech, free press, and a healthy democracy. U.S. doing what the U.S. does best, right? Classified information is published in the press every day. In fact, the biggest leaker of classified information in the U.S. government, wrote Radek, is the U.S. government, wrote Radek. However, the Espionage Act is uniquely used to punish those sources who give journalists information that embarrasses the government or exposes its lies. Exactly. Every whistleblower jailed under the Espionage Act is a threat to the work of national security journalists and the sources they rely upon to hold the government accountable, she added. Medea Benjamin, co-founder of the women-led peace group Code Pink, tweeted that it's outrageous that drone whistleblower Daniel Hale will be going to prison for exposing the drone murders by the U.S. military. Why don't the murderers go to jail? I read this one earlier. Hale's sentencing is scheduled for July 13th. He faces up to 10 years behind bars. Kiriakou told Gosztola that he hopes the judge recognizes the good in what Daniel Hale has done and gives him the lightest possible sentence. Yeah, this is garbage. Garbage. Total garbage. Like I said, it's a violation of the First Amendment. And it's not cool. Not cool at all. All right, questions, comments, suggestions, thoughts, cucumbers, scorpions, anything? I take it? Nope. What the? Why? Let's go. All right, next. Everything. Come on, let me click. Swimming out, I need some water. Okay, no problem, dude. No problem. Bengal. Now we're into some tech stuff. Bengaluru engineers create world's first plastic as strong as steel while staying lightweight. This is from December 2019, so this is from 2 years ago, a year and a half or more ago. Engineers are always on the lookout for materials that can improve the performance of their existing products. Car makers, too, are always on the lookout to make lighter yet stronger parts to help cars perform better. And in most cases, these solutions come at a pretty hefty cost. However, a bunch of Indian engineers at the Bengaluru R&D facility of Saudi Arabia's Sabik petrochemical company have created a plastic that is stronger than steel while being extremely lightweight. They've created a resin metal-based hybrid solution that they call Noril GTX. Noril GTX blends polyamide PA and modified polyphenylene ethyl polymer PPE technology. It brings forward the dimensional stability, the water absorption, and heat resistance of PPE polymer with the chemical resistance and flow of PA polymer. No clue what any of that means. According to Janardanan Ramanujalu, company's regional head for Southeast Asia, Australia, and New Zealand, you don't normally associate plastic with high temperatures, but we have developed polymers that can work in very high temperatures, as when a car is painted, and which are replacing traditional metals. He further added, our resin combines with steel to form a very efficient energy-absorbing crash box structure. Cuts the weight by up to 30%, wow, and can be compared to high-strength steel and maintains the required level of crash worthiness. That's pretty huge. Maintains the required level of crash worthiness. Okay, that's pretty cool. I wonder what its total stats are as compared to steel. This isn't the first revolutionary discovery to come at. This isn't the first revolutionary discovery at the Bengaluru R&D facility. A team of 300 engineers, mostly chemical and material scientists, are constantly to bring new and innovative tech applications. They're also known to file for at least 70 patents every year. According to Rajeshwar Dangara, head of the Bengaluru facility, the application design team at the Bengaluru Center collaborates with global customers in designing and optimizing the Noril GTX resin structures, which are molded over onto the steel skeleton of vehicles. These novel lightweight designs help car structures absorb energy impact if there's an accident. Okay, so that's a thing. It's a thing. All right, next. Now we've covered something, at least on the mycorrhizal networks of a month or two ago. This was going to kind of talk about that as well. It's the talking about the mycelial mass that connects mushrooms and that's found underground. Fungi could manipulate bacteria to enrich soil with nutrients. And can you guys hear the music too? I don't hear it in my ear. Just let me know if you're hearing it and if it's okay. And when was this? This is from... That's from this month. It's from yesterday. Yesterday. There we go. Team of researchers from the Boyce Thompson Institute, BTI, has discovered a distinct group of bacteria that may help fungi and plants acquire soil nutrients. The finding could point the way to cost-effective and eco-friendly methods of enriching soil and improving crop yields, reducing farmers' reliance on conventional fertilizers. Researchers know that arbuscular mycorrhizal fungi establish symbiotic relationships with the roots of 70% of all land plants. In this relationship, plants trade fatty acids for the fungi's nitrogen and phosphorus. However, AM fungi lack the enzymes needed to free nitrogen and phosphorus from complex organic molecules. A trio of BTI scientists, led by Maria Harrison, the William H. Crocker professor at BTI, wondered whether other soil microbes might help the fungi access those nutrients. In a first step towards examining that possibility, the team investigated whether AM fungi associate with a specific community of bacteria. The research was described in a paper published in the ISME journal on March 1st. The team examined bacteria living on the surfaces of long filament-like structures called hyphae, which the fungi extend into the soil far from their host plant. On hyphae from two species of fungi, the team discovered highly similar bacterial communities whose composition was distinct from those in the surrounding soil. This tells us that, just like the human gut or plant roots, the hyphae of AM fungi have their own unique microbiomes, said Harrison, who is also an adjunct professor in Cornell University School of Integrative Plant Science. We're already testing a few interesting predictions as to what these bacteria might do, such as helping with phosphate acquisition. If we're right, then enriching the soil for some of these bacteria could increase crop yields and ultimately reduce the need for conventional fertilizers along with their associated costs and environmental impacts, she added. Her co-researchers on the study were former BTI scientists Brian Emmett and Veronique Levesque Tremblay. I'm assuming this is the hyphae here, and then this might be the little bacteria. Look, I'm assuming. Okay, it's just a picture of the hyphae, I guess. Among the fungi. In the study, the team used two species of AM fungi, Glomus versiform and Rhizophagus irregularis, and grew them in three different types of soil in symbiosis with Brachypodium distachyon, a grass species related to wheat. After letting the fungus grow with the grass for up to 65 days, the researchers used gene sequencing to identify bacteria sticking to the hyphae surfaces. The team found remarkable consistency in the makeup of bacterial communities from the two fungal species. Those communities were similar in all three types of soil, but very different from those found in soil away from the filaments. The function of these bacteria is not yet clear, but their composition has already sparked some interesting possibilities, Harrison said. Predict that some of these bacteria liberate phosphorus ions in the immediate vicinity of the filaments, giving the fungus the best chance to capture those ions, Harrison said. Learning which bacteria have this function could be key to enhancing the fungus's phosphate acquisition process to benefit plants. Harrison's group is investigating the factors that control which bacteria assemble on the filaments. Harrison thinks the AM fungi may secrete molecules that attract these bacteria, and in turn, the bacterial communities may influence which molecules the fungus secretes. Kind of creates a feedback loop. Okay, so this is a picture of the hyphae here. Looks like. Highway patrol. Among the hyphae microbiomes were members of the Myxococcus and other taxa that include bacterial predators that kill and eat other bacteria by causing them to burst and release their contents. Brutal. These predators move by gliding along surfaces, so the fungal filaments could serve as linear feeding lanes, said Emmett, who is currently a research microbiologist for the U.S. Department of Agriculture's Agricultural Research Service in Ames, Iowa. Many soil bacteria appear to travel along fungal hyphae in the soil, and these predators may make it a more perilous journey. While not every member of those taxa on the filaments may be predatory, Harrison's group plans to investigate how and why those putative predators assemble there. It's possible that the actions of predatory bacteria make mineral nutrients available to everyone in the surrounding soil, predators and fungi alike, she said. All right. There is that. Quiet today. Hope everyone's doing okay. I don't want to work. Now we're getting into some stuff that I have had up here for a while, but not had a chance to read them yet. Get into some more yummy climate stuff. Let's talk about the socializing the negative externalities for fossil fuels. It's good stuff. Should make us kind of happy. All right, this is from March sometime. Oil and gas firms are saddling states with billions in cleanup costs. Yes, it is. And this is why in my policies I state that fossil fuel industries, well, all industries, should be tasked with dealing with the environmental cleanup for every single aspect of what they do. So they have to pay for the negative externalities of them doing business. And that would prevent this. They can't, destroy the environment just by getting the fossil fuels and then destroy the environment again through, oil spills. And of course, like you see here, destroying the entire environment and not remediate it. This needs to be fixed. And in my administration, that's what I would do. All right, let our journal, blah, blah, blah. When an oil or gas well reaches the end of its lifespan, it must be plugged. If it isn't, the well might leak toxic chemicals into groundwater and spew methane, carbon dioxide, and other pollutants into the atmosphere for years on end. But plugging a well is no simple task. Cement must be pumped down into it, blocking the opening, and the tubes connecting it to tanks or pipes must be removed, along with all other on-site equipment. Then, the top of the well has to be chopped off near the surface and plugged again, and the area around the rig must be cleaned up. Or we can just not do it. We can just not do fossil fuels and then not have to worry about it. There are nearly 60,000 unplugged wells in Colorado in need of this treatment, each costing $140,000 on average, according to the Carbon Tracker, a climate think tank, in a new report that analyzes oil and gas permitting data. Plugging this many wells will cost a lot, more than $8 billion. The report found, that plugging the wells, that should be a part of the permit, part of the licensing. That's a part of doing business. Oh my God. Companies that drill wells in Colorado are legally required to pay for plugging them. They must also put forward financial assurances in the form of bonds, which the state can call on to pay for the plugging. You think about how all the silicon that is dug up for solar panels can stay around forever and almost never properly disposed of. H. Pie Lord, how you doing? Welcome. If you think about how all the silicon that's dug up for solar panels can stay around forever. What do you mean by that? They're digging it up and they're using it, right? It'll become an ever increased cost and health risk that will kill thousands, if not hundreds of thousands in developing nations. Yeah, for you talking about the fossil fuels? Or which part? Because silicon is not inherently dangerous. Right? Goes into the solar panels. Where does it go when you're done with the panel? Oh, okay. So you're talking about the dealing with the solar panels. Yeah. Gotcha. Okay. So yeah, we don't have I don't think we have a decent way of recycling solar panels. That is something we need to figure out. So silicon is okay. So the normal form is very toxic. Okay. Interesting. We don't. You're right. Yeah, we don't have a way of recycling, and that's something that we need to figure out. We honestly need a way to be able to recycle every single thing. If you don't have a way of recycling something, you probably shouldn't be making it. That's basically the way I approach it. Now, obviously, there's going to be an injustice point. Yeah, exactly right. Yeah. So, yeah, the West dumps its waste on second, third world countries. And you're exactly right. That's a huge problem. That's a part of the classism and the racism, the systemic and structural racism inherent to capitalism. The first world countries, the white countries, make all the money. They take all of the resources from the second and third world countries and then give them all the waste, and leaving the second and third world countries with nothing but waste and poverty. Yep, that's exactly right. Yep, causing health risk and death. Yep, yeah, exactly. And that's something that needs to be fixed. And it's hard to fix. Well, it's hard to fix outside of capitalism, because capitalism essentially requires that, right? Because capitalism, monetary systems, is systemically and structurally racist and requires, well, can't survive. There's like a study done, right? A lot of silicon is dug up in first world nations like Australia. Sure. Yep, and still, that needs to be dealt with there as well. As you're pointing out, it endangers the locals because silicon is toxic, right? But it still needs to be, they still need to find a way to basically remediate the local area so that such things aren't a danger to the water, to the off-gassing doesn't get into the air, and so on. The area needs to be remediated and the environment and the people protected. So that's something that, every single industry, every single manufacturer has to work on doing. It is okay. It's a difficult process, sure, but it needs to be done regardless, because if you're endangering the environment and endangering the people, well, you're doing something wrong, and you need to find a way to deal with it. And why it's not done is because there's no money to be made in doing it. And that's one of the big problems with capitalism, with monetary systems, doing the right thing. Recycling, remediation, protecting the environment and protecting the people, that's something easy to cut costs on. The mining is mostly okay. It has more to do with the piles of waste in China and Africa. Yeah, of course. Yep, and then sending it to these other countries, that's a huge problem, and you shouldn't be doing that. There has to be a way to deal with this. And I imagine if there is, it's expensive. And again, that's one of the problems with money, right? If we didn't have to worry about money, then we just put together, the processes and the equipment to go ahead and remediate the local area, to take the waste and turn it into something else. Yes, e-waste too. Yep. Yeah, and that's going to second and third world countries too, right? That's going all over the world, wherever we can just dump it, because there's not enough money to be made in recycling it. And again, that has to be stopped as well. We have to find a good way to recycle electronic waste. And part of that is also, right, that's part of my policies too, that we need to start ensuring that, because the normal bust that stuff open in populated areas. Yeah, exactly right. Yep. Yeah, or they burn it too as well. So we need to shift, especially with the electronic industry, for stuff to be more centered around universal design and universal components and more modular components as well. That way, you know, if things are more universal, you've got more options to replace it. If it's more modular, you don't have to replace the entire board. You can just replace maybe a processor or a set of heat sinks, or, you know, whichever small part you can replace instead of having to replace the whole kit and caboodle. And that is the sort of thing that's a part of the regenerative, open source, circular economy to reduce harms to the environment and planned obsolescence and that sort of a thing. Take the good stuff and leave the not so great stuff in the local area. Right, yeah. Take all the good stuff from, you know, wherever you can get it and leave the garbage there. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and that has to stop. And that's one of the other reasons also to try and shift to more localizing the production of most things. Now, obviously, we can't do that for everything. Electronics is one of those things that it's much harder to localize the production because rare earth minerals are rare for a reason, but still. We have to recycle it, and we have to protect the environment and the people. And that's if you're not doing that, you're the problem. And it's very difficult to do under capitalism because there's no money to be made in doing that. And if Peach Pie Lord, if you're interested, here are my policies. Let me drop in the environmental policies here. Here's my environmental policies as far as that's concerned. Oh, and it's not gonna. Restream is just not working. The chat. All right, there's my policies there on environmental stuff. Yeah, and when you look at, as you're pointing this out, right, it's also points out one of the diseases of nationalism, that, you know, because we see ourselves as an individual or separate nation states, that it's okay for us to do, you know, take all these resources from someone else and then poison them because they see themselves as a nation state as something separate to these other people, to these other countries, and so on. And that's why, again, if you're a regular here, so my 8 philosophical pillars for peace are so important, because the core and the most important of the pillars is interdependence. If we understand that humanity is interdependent with itself, then it not only interdependent with itself, but also with the natural world, then the poisoning of other countries and other peoples and the environment wouldn't make any sense. Interdependence is the most important of my pillars, and this is what we need to be teaching. And if we start implementing a value like that, then a lot of the stuff can start to go away. That's why my policies starts first with the philosophical foundations and then policies based on that. A strong basis for a solution for climate change. Nuclear power is the cleanest and most efficient power source. Yes, but it's also, if something happens, it's horrific. We don't need nuclear power. We don't. It takes a decade to build it, and then you have nuclear waste, and then within that time, you could build solar. I mean, if you want to look at safe and clean baseload sustainable energy, it should be geothermal and tidal. Those are the two things that are probably the best that we should concentrate on for baseload energy. And then from there, you can go into solar and all the other stuff. A Coke can of waste can power your life. Yes, but also a Coke can of waste exploded around your house can make your house and everyone in the next, I don't know, mile or so, turn it into basically a rad zone where you can't live. At some point, one of these things are going to break, as they already have, right? Although the newer designs are supposed to be, quote, safer. But still, the moment that breaks and it happens, you've got... I know, I operate a nuclear reactor in the U.S. Navy. I get that. Believe me, I do. But as soon as something happens, an earthquake, whatever happens, and it opens up, you've got a rad zone that you can't use. We've seen that with, of course, Chernobyl, of course, and also Fukushima, although there are mitigating things there, and those are older designs as well. But they're super expensive, and they take too long, and we can get better, safer energy off other sustainable methods, and we don't need nuclear. Do not need it. Tidal, geothermal. That's what we need. We need to concentrate on that, and then we can do other stuff. Okay. Companies that drill wells in Colorado are legally okay, we just read that. Okay, these bonds are meant to incentivize cleanup and to protect the state in case a company is unable to pay. But as it stands today, Colorado has only about $185 million from industry, just 2% of the estimated cleanup bill, according to the new study. The Colorado Oil and Gas Conservation Commission assumes an average cost of $82,500 per well, lower than the carbon tracker's figure, which factors in issues like well depth. But even using the state's more conservative number of the overall cleanup cost would the overall cleanup would cost nearly $5 billion, of which the money currently available from energy companies would cover less than 5%. So, yeah, this shouldn't be a thing. Either they clean it up or they lose the business. Honestly, if you're going to endanger the environment, your company should be forfeit effectively. The government, the society at large, should not be in charge of fixing your problems. It's the cost of doing business. The situation is the product of more than 150 years of energy extraction. Now, with the oil and gas industry looking less robust every year and reeling in the wake of the pandemic, the state of Colorado and its people could be on the hook for billions in cleanup costs, which is ridiculous. Meanwhile, unplugged wells persist as environmental hazards. This spring, Colorado will try to tackle the problem. State energy regulators have been tasked with reforming the policies governing well cleanup and financial commitments from the industry. Yeah, that's why in my policies, I say fossil fuel industry is going to clean up all of that stuff, all of it, and they'll be held responsible for it because it's ridiculous. The system has put the state at risk and it needs to change, said Josh Joswick, an organizer with the environmental group Earthworks. Now we have a government that wants to do something about it. In the red states have only a small fraction of the money they need to clean up oil and gas wells. Yep. Okay, amount needed and amount secured. Okay, so red is the amount of money they have, and the black is how much they actually need. Nowhere near enough. Looks like Texas. Does Texas have anything? Data was not collected for Texas's cleanup funds. Okay, so we don't have data for Texas. Yeah, and this shouldn't be a thing. The government shouldn't be collecting it. Either the business takes care of it as a part of doing business, getting the license and that sort of stuff, or you just don't do it. And this is also why this probably is so because obviously the fossil fuel industry has a major impact or control over the government to allow them to do that. Again, corporate ownership of the government is a huge, huge problem. The first Western oil well broke ground in Colorado in 1860. Drilling has been an important part of the state's economy ever since. As of 2019, Colorado ranked in the 6th and 7th in the nation for oil and natural gas production, respectively. When it comes to cleanup, Colorado uses a tiered system known as blanket bonding. Small operators can pay ahead with bonds on single wells. Drillers with more than 100 wells statewide pay a fixed reclamation fee of $100,000, regardless of the number of wells. Similar system also applies to wells on federal public land in this state. Large companies pay a single $150,000 bond, which covers unlimited federal public land wells throughout the country. There are about 7,400 public land wells capable of producing oil or gas in Colorado, according to the Bureau of Land Management. Yeah, yeah, not good. And a driller. Dude, how you doing? Welcome, welcome. How you doing, James? Doing some environmental stuff. Talking about oil and gas firms socializing cleanup costs. How are things going? 5 nights on nonstop riding in Derry. Oh, really? Why is there riding in Derry? Derry, Indiana? You're in Britain. Derry, Northern Ireland. Okay. What now? All right, while we're waiting, I'll keep reading here. When a driller walks away or cannot pay for the cleanup, the well enters the state's orphan well program, which works to identify and plug these wells. Okay, so that shouldn't be a thing. The money should effectively be put up front as a part of the cost for having the license. I mean, not being able to plug it shouldn't be a thing. Police decided not to prosecute Republicans over holding a funeral that breached COVID restrictions, so unionists are pissed and they're throwing petrol bombs and police are firing fireworks at them. Oh, wow. Yikes. Yikes. Is everyone okay, or is it people just... Hopefully everyone's okay, even with that ridiculousness going on. Yikes, yikes, yikes. Yeah, Republicans flouting the laws as usual. 12 in the hospital? Oh, wow. I suppose throwing Molotov cocktails, yeah, someone's definitely bound to get hurt. Irish Republicans. Okay, gotcha. Yeah, I was like, gotcha. Irish Republicans. Okay, cool. Good to know, because I thought you may have just been using Republican as a conservative, as a nomenclature for conservatives, but okay, Irish Republicans. Okay. Crazy. Okay, Irish Republicans. Okay, overholding. Crazy. So much violence. Every time you come on here, there's violence going on over there in Ireland. Why can't we all get along, man? I hope you and your family and friends and stuff are safe over there. Yikes. There are about 200 wells in the program right now, according to the state, but a closer look at state data reveals a large number of wells at risk. Nearly half of the state's unplugged wells are stripper wells, low-producing operations with small profit margins, often at the end of their lifespans. Yeah, it's all going to shit. I'm okay. Well, we started with COVID stuff, and the CDC has said that if you've been vaccinated, travel however you want. Although if you're in close proximity, wear a mask, right? And people are on planes, and you don't need to isolate either if you're traveling or anything like that. So yeah, they're effectively saying if you're vaccinated, everything is magically okay. Almost magically okay. Other than that, good. Tired from playing a game into the night, but I'm doing okay. Yeah, life is okay here. In my little corner, at least. Got vaccine a few weeks ago. Hopefully it'll somewhat help. Yeah, hopefully. Yeah, we've covered, yesterday we covered a bunch of stuff on that. We have the last few weeks. The vaccine it won't necessarily protect you from getting COVID, but it'll help reduce the symptoms caused by it, which is a big deal. Especially now that B117 is coming. It's from Britain, right? You're familiar with that. It's in Michigan here in the United States, which is right next door to Wisconsin, where I'm at. So I'm kind of freaking out about it. Yeah, I had the wife put us on a list to get vaccinated. I'm really just freaking out. Normally I try and wait if I can, but there's social pressures, especially with B117 coming this way, and it having, from what I remember, having more harm versus children. So with that coming, I'm trying to get vaccinated to hopefully protect my daughter, at least a little bit. Though to protect me, I don't know. So I can still get it. I don't know. I don't know anymore. This is a common tactic in the oil and gas industry, spinning off liabilities to progressively weaker companies until the final owner goes bankrupt and none of the previous owners are on the hook for the cleanup. Exactly. And that's in my policies. I talk about that. Yeah, I did. Someone shared that yesterday. Someone rammed a SUV into the police or something like that. It's crazy. I haven't heard much about it beyond the little article we read. We didn't have any news because it happened just like 22 minutes prior to the article. So have you heard anything else about it? Who or why or anything like that? Instead of just being stupid? I don't know. So yeah, SAI policy is that he was a black nationalist. Oh, part of the nation of Islam. Oh, really? Well, that's a first. I mean, I haven't heard about Islamic-based terrorism in quite a while. Interesting. If you have an article on it, throw it in here. We'll take a look at it. So yeah, let me bring it up here. Let's see, where do we do it? That's the only place? Nope. Well, I say something like that in my policies. Actually, let's look for subsidiaries. And here we go. So you'll have 1 year to create a 5-year plan to completely remediate all environmental damage caused directly or indirectly over the entirety of their operation and of their subsidiaries. So much like what they're talking in this article, that they pass it down, that they're not going to get out of that. Maybe I need to reform this to make sure that there's other ways that they can get out of doing it. But yeah, that needs to, passing the buck so they don't have to deal with it must be stopped. All right, we'll go through that in just a moment. Thanks for putting this out there. So yeah, that's something we need to do. We need to make sure that our these businesses, especially fossil fuel businesses, are being held accountable for the harm that they cause. They have to clean up their pollution and their environmental damage. There are also inactive wells. Nearly 10% of the state's wells have not produced oil or gas in at least 2 years, according to a carbon tracker analysis of state permitting data. Like some of the neighboring oil states, Colorado requires that companies pay a single bond on each inactive well of this sort. This costs either $10,000 or $20,000 depending on the depth of the well. In theory, these payments protect the state in case the well owner goes bankrupt. But in Colorado, it is still far cheaper for energy companies to pay the cost of that single unused well and the small annual premium payments on the bond than to actually plug it. Of course, and that's got to change. Colorado clearly makes it cheaper to idle a well than to clean it up, Williams Dairy said. Yeah, it's a policy problem, and that needs to be fixed. In Colorado, just 2 companies are responsible for nearly 70% of the bonds for currently inactive wells. One is Noble Energy Inc., which was purchased by the global oil giant Chevron in October 2020. The other is Kerr-McGee, a subsidiary of the Occidental Petroleum. Kerr-McGee was responsible for the 2017 home explosion in Firestone, Colorado, that killed 2 people. Last year, COGCC fined the company more than $18 million for the accident, by far the largest fine in state history. Both companies still own a large number of wells in the Denver-Julesburg Basin, the prolific oil and gas formation beneath central and eastern Colorado. And the mass desertion of wells is not hypothetical. In fall of 2019, a small company called PetroShare Corporation went bankrupt and left about 90 wells for the state to clean up. That alone will cost Colorado millions of dollars. Last summer, when California's largest oil driller filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy protection, it left billions in debt and more than 17,000 unplugged wells. So yeah, the money needs to be there up front to plug those wells. That's not something they should be able to shirk. Much like student loans, you can't shirk student loan debt. Right? It needs to be something put up front, maybe put into escrow, so that when the well is done, the money's there, and then you cap it, and then you can get whatever's back from the capping process. The oil and gas industry is already mired in a years-long decline that raises doubt about its ability to meet cleanup costs. In 6 out of the past 7 years, energy has been either the worst or second worst performing sector in the S&P 500. And the economic fallout from COVID-19 has only accelerated the decline. Oil prices hit record lows in 2020. The industry's debt approached record levels, and thousands of oil field workers lost their jobs, Colorado Public Radio reported. Many companies went bankrupt, including 12 drilling companies and 6 oil field service companies in Colorado, according to Haynes and Boone LLP, a law firm that tracks industry trends. Okay. In 2019, a new law completely overhauled the state's relationship to oil and gas. This spring, Colorado oil and gas regulators are tasked with reforming the financial requirements for well plugging. Okay, good. It's a big deal, especially in an oil state like Colorado. The law gives local governments more control over oil and gas development, and it rewrote the mission of the COGCC, the state's energy regulator. The COGCC has subsequently banned the burning off or releasing of natural gas, good, a routine drilling practice, and instituted a broad range of wildlife and public health protection policies. Recently it voted for the nation's largest setback rule, which requires oil and gas operations to stay at least 2,000 feet from homes and schools. Just 2,000 feet? It should be more than that. And just the pollution alone from that is going to be like maybe 2 miles, maybe? Might be a good start. Doesn't seem like a lot. It's not even. No, how much? A mile is 5,000. My God. 5,280 feet, right? Yeah, 5,000. Okay, yeah, it's not even half a mile. The deep divide between the true cost of cleanup and what industry has so far ponied up is not news to Colorado regulators. In a 2017 letter, the lawmakers, the COGCC, estimated that the average cost of plugging wells and cleaning up the drilling site, important, exceeded available financial assurance by a factor of 14. With this new rulemaking process, Colorado has a chance to make up this gap. How to handle this looming liability remains an open question, said John Mesner, COGCC commissioner. The rulemaking process is still in its early stages and will take months. The commission is asking stakeholders of all kinds, industry, local governments, environmental groups, and more to submit suggestions and opinions to the commission. There are several different methods for how best to reform the process, Mesner said. That might involve leaving the current structure in place while increasing the bond amounts, including on individual well bonds. It might mean a revamped tier system where more prolific producers pay more, or a different fee structure based on the number of drilled wells. Messner mentioned the option of a bond pool where companies pay into a communal cleanup fund and, at least in theory, provide industry-wide insurance to guard against companies defaulting on cleanup obligations. Yeah, again, make sure that the money is there up front to a large extent, for the capping and the cleanup, or they don't do it. Sure, that greatly increases the level of capital required up front and will greatly reduce the number of oil and gas that they can do, but it'll make sure that the money is there to clean it up afterwards when they inevitably have to close it. Besides, we need to be getting off fossil fuels anyhow. This is a good way to start now, making sure that happens. Messner stressed that no formal decisions have been made and that the final rule could involve some combination of these and other tools. I asked Messner about balancing the pressing need to increase cleanup requirements with the possibility of companies walking away from their wells if their cost to operate in Colorado spikes. It's a real risk, Messner said. The Colorado Oil and Gas Association expressed a similar concern in an email to HCN. Well, just start passing a law that they can't, and that if they do, they suffer massive, massive fines as people start going to jail. Because what they're doing is criminal. Well, of course, the government allows it and has created the policy to do so, but still, it is. When it comes to financial assurance for current and future wells, we need to ensure that the potential solution doesn't create an even bigger problem by raising the cost of doing business in Colorado for small businesses. Said COGA President Dan Haley in a statement. Regulatory changes in the past 2 years alone are costing oil and gas business an extra $200 million a year. For our state to stay competitive, regulators and lawmakers need to be cognizant of that growing tally and the rising cost of doing business. Yeah, no, fuck them, right? Put them out of business and shift to sustainable energy. I mean, you shouldn't want them in your state because of the poison, the pollution, the environmental cost. I mean, the long-term socioeconomic costs and the negative externalities that result from doing business negatively impacts the state and the people and everything else in ridiculous and harmful ways. I mean, it's stupid to want them in your state. I mean, it's stupid. Stupid. Then again, the fossil fuel industry, right, owns and controls our governments. Son of a bitch. But as it stands today, oil and gas companies aren't realistically paying anywhere near the true cost of cleaning up their drilling sites. And with the industry's murky financial future, experts predict more and more sales of risky wells to less wealthy operators until the state could end stuck with the final cost. It's like a game of hot potato, William Sterry said, except that when the potato goes off, it's the public who loses. And that's what needs to change in their policy. This is a policy problem. They didn't have to make it that way. Oh my God. Questions, comments, suggestions on that? My peeps? And this has already been shared, but I'll share it again. Oh no, it just shared it. Okay. We have it. Where's Twitch? Okay, we're good there. Okay, so this is about the attack from last week, right? U.S. Capitol attacker, what we know so far about suspect Noah Green, the 25-year-old is thought to be from Indiana and was not known to police before the attack. Saw some verified Twitters being quite hasty to make their conclusions. Oh yeah, of course, they will. Well, yeah, it's Twitter. What do you expect, right? Some promptly removing what they posted. Yeah, it's Twitter. It's a thing, right? Assuming they probably posted it and then realized what some of the problem was with what they said and then take it off. Yeah, I mean, it's sad to see anytime. Yeah, of course, yeah, heavily reactionary, right? There's a lot of emotions to this. There's sort of violence and all the stuff going on. Yep, let's see what they have to say about this. This is from today, right? at 2:37 UK time, which I have no idea what that is here. Probably that's 6 hours, right? So what is it? It's 4 o'clock now, so it's probably, I don't know. I can't even use my brain. Probably 6 in the morning, I think. I don't know. Authorities are piecing together what they know about the man shot dead outside the U.S. Capitol building after he launched a fatal attack on police officers. U.S. Capitol Police Officer William Evans died in the hospital after a man rammed a car into 2 officers and lunged toward them with a knife in his hand at around 1 p.m. local time on Friday. He was then shot dead by one of the officers. 4 senior law enforcement officials briefed on the investigation have named the suspect as 25-year-old Noah Green, according to NBC News. So that's the car. No idea what it is. Kind of sickens me how some people seemingly like it when the other side does some attack. Right, yeah, no, I agree. That's it. I don't support violence on either side. Violence is not the answer. Violence, I mean, we talk about BLM and stuff like that. You know, like I said before, I get that. I mean, when there's a reason for it, I don't support it, but I get it, right? It's like Dr. King said, riots are the language of the unheard, and what is it that America has not heard? Paraphrased, right? Yeah, no one should be happy that violence is happening. It's not a good thing. So far, there are a few details about who he was, but an investigation has been launched to work out the motive behind the attack. Green, originally thought to be from Indiana, lived in Covington, Virginia. He was employed, and he said on his Facebook page that the past few years have been tough, and the past few months tougher. He was enrolled on a part-time MBA online course at Florida State University, and records showed that he recently traveled to Botswana and South Africa. Okay, but investigators have drawn no conclusions about whether that is in any way relevant to the Capitol attack. Okay, so he was doing stuff, which is good, and I wonder. So, I bet, like, UBI would have made a huge difference here. You know, I have no idea what, like they're saying, they don't know what this situation is, but why has it been tougher? Healthcare, not having enough money, right? And usually a lot of these things are socioeconomic driven or ideologically driven, potentially, as they're trying to allude to here. But even that that potential ideological drive is also driven at the beginning socioeconomically, U.S. imperialism, so on and so forth. He was unemployed, and he said on his Facebook page that the past few years have been tough. Okay, so he was unemployed. All right, so yeah, UBI probably would have prevented a lot of this. I missed that part. Okay, so according to NBC News, Green filed a petition in December to change his name in court, but the case was dismissed because he failed to turn up for his hearing. And traveling to Botswana and South Africa isn't cheap. Okay. I believe it. Not that you can't do anything when you're poor. Right. Yeah, that's an interesting point. According to okay, because he failed to turn up for his hearing, but those tickets are $700 round trip. Well, that's nothing. Belarus is, if you're lucky, you can get it for that. Normally, it's about $1,000, $1,200 to $1,500 to go to Belarus, where my wife is from. That's $700 would be amazing to pay round trip. Holy crap! Not so bad. Some of his posts on Facebook made reference to black nationalist group Nation of Islam, as well as referring to the end times, the Antichrist and government mind control. Yikes. Round trip, it's probably more if you don't specifically search for it. Oh, right. Yeah. So, all right. So Africa has a lot of Islam, Muslim, and Christian influence. Now, if he's talking about end times, right? I can see that being a problem. Of course, if he's brainwashed by religion, that can create all sorts of horrible things, especially right-wing Christian end times cults. Okay, not good. Brendan Green told the Washington Post his brother had been violently ill in the apartment they shared in Virginia on Thursday, and it sent him a text saying he planned to become homeless. Okay, that's crazy. South Africa and Botswana have no Islam. Okay, that's good. Thank you. But a lot of black nationalists. Oh, okay. So can you explain to me the black nationalist part? I mean, most of Africa is people of color. What is the black nationalist aspect within the context of Africa? How does that happen? What is that? What is that thing? Well, in South Africa and Botswana, you got 3 groups. Colored, black, and white. What's colored? Is that mixed race? Or just lighter black? Lighter skin tones? A multiracial ethnic group native to South Africa who have ancestry from more than one of the various populations inhabiting the region, including Khoisan, Bantu, Whites, Austronesian, East Asian, or South Asian. Okay. Okay, interesting. So effectively, okay, mixed black, but basically there's some parties that are black. Oh, okay. Oh, interesting. Racism alive and well, huh? Okay, well, thanks for that education. Kill the Boer? What is that? BOER. Was that the colored? Is that what that was referring to? Someone from Dutch origin. Okay, so kill the white people. Gotcha. Okay. Holy crap in a box. Had no idea. No. Boer is different from white. What does it mean, man? Getting educated people here. That's why Twitch is so great. Learn stuff. The Boer state was a separate state in South Africa. Kill the Boer. Okay. Aren't Dutch people? Well, that's what I was thinking, Girly Bear. That's why I said white. Mostly Dutch people. Oh, you've covered this before. We've talked about this a little bit. I think you've talked about this before. Yeah, but English people aren't Boers. Okay, so okay, Dutch, white. I see what you're saying. Yeah. Okay, so gotcha. Okay, yeah. So didn't we talk? Maybe it was you that brought this up because this seems to be your thing. That in South Africa, the Dutch came and they were given significant advantage with farmland, and then the black people that were there were kind of screwed out of that. But that wasn't Dutch, that was Britain, right? Is that what we talked about? I don't even remember. Is it something like that? Is that what the Dutch did, or was that the British? Or both? Or am I mixing two things up? English people aren't Boers. Okay. Quite complex. Okay. All right. We don't need to go all into that, but all right. So kill the Dutch. Kill the Dutch. Okay. Well, I imagine at the end of the day, it boils down to Western imperialism, white imperialism, going in there, murdering people, stealing their stuff, impoverishing the entire nation, like, the entire West has always done. So I expect that's ultimately what the problem is, whether English or Dutch or American or whatever, right? The exploitation, the systemic and structural racism inherent in Western imperialism causing harm to Africa. And that's what we're talking about fundamentally there. Wow. Okay. Okay, well, that's good to know. Good background there. All right, so they said black, okay, Nation of Islam, referring to the end of, okay. I think the Dutch came to a largely empty land and bought it in a quite reasonable manner. Okay, interesting. Crazy. Brendan, let's see. Okay, so he had been violently ill and he planned to become homeless. Now, that's strange. Green was not known to either local police or the U.S. Capitol Police, and the attack is not thought to be terror-related, authorities have said. Sky correspondent Alex Rossi said investigators will now be trying to build up a picture of this person using information including his social media and phone records. Authorities will be trying to work out details, including who his friends and family were and who he spoke to in the days leading up to the attack. In a news conference, Capitol Police Acting Chief Yogananda Pittman said the suspect had rammed his car into two officers before hitting a barrier. Then got out of his car and started to run aggressively at officers with a knife in his hand, lunging towards them. Washington, D.C. Police Chief Robert Conti said clearly this was someone who was actively trying to get whoever or whatever. But why? Oh. Okay, Economic Freedom Fighters is a South African left-wing to far-left Pan-Africanist political party. It was founded by expelled former African National Congress Youth League. President Julius Malema, 2013. Central Starch Party itself has been accused of fomenting anti-white, anti-Indian racism, and Malema himself was convicted in 2011 for singing the racially discriminatory song "Shoot the Boer." Okay. It is the third largest party in both houses in South African Parliament. Holy crap. Okay. And it's the third largest party. Yikes. Draws inspiration from broad Marxist-Leninist tradition. State imperialism. Has been vocal in its criticism of black business owners and black owners of mining companies in South Africa. In an address to the Oxford Union in November 2015, Malema spoke out against billionaire mining company owner Patrice Motsepe. That's anti-white. Okay, all right, good to know. It's the third largest party, it says here. That's crazy. Well, considering what we've done there, hard not to blame them, especially with I'm not sure what the poverty level is there, but still, it's yeah, wow. Former CIA covert operations officer Michael Baker said there would be a lot of speculation as to the motive for the attack, and he expected there would be a jump to the suggestion that the suspect was a far-right supporter. However, he said the timing of the attack could potentially point to a mental health issue. House and Senate are currently on recess, so the politicians are not currently in the building. It's a quiet time up there, and you would assume that if it was more nefarious plot, they would have understood that and chosen time. It was more busy. Yeah, exactly. And so he said he was super sick and he was homeless and he was jobless. So South Africans are also often racist against other Africans. Yeah, high levels of tribalism due to high levels of inequality and that sort of thing. Yeah, some people say that like black people or people of color can't be racist, and that's not a thing. That's not what the article is about. This one here, is that what you're referring to? Or this one? This one here, yeah. We don't really know what it is. I think it's like they're saying it's pointing to socioeconomic issues, which were probably the primary driving force. I mean, he didn't have a job. He is planning on being homeless. I don't know why that would be. And he was super sick. Again, I went on a tangent. Okay. You're welcome to do so. Again, universal housing, universal healthcare, UBI. I bet you we could have prevented all this with these 3 things. Possibly. At least most of it. Maybe not even gone to Africa had he had these 3 things. Universal basic services could have prevented many, many things. Yikes. Yikes-a-roni. Actually, let's not do this one. One moment. All right, let's see, do you want to do this? All right, let's go and watch this video. This is it's only 6 minutes. Almost 7 minutes. This is about Georgia makes it illegal to deliver pizza. All right, here we go. Captions are on. This is Lee Camp from Redacted Tonight. Here we go.
The Democrats and Republicans seen here in my fever dream have been hard at work doing what they do best, trying to screw up American democracy. I know, you're probably thinking, how can they screw something that has been dead for a generation? But they said the same thing about Barbara Walters' husband, and that's going fine. The Democrats and Republicans each have their own way of taking the last remaining scraplets of our electoral system and disemboweling them even further. And no, I'm not mixing my metaphors. Scraplets have bowels. Try ordering Denny's thrice salvaged griddle cakes and tell me otherwise. Here's how the GOP has been hard at work stopping people from voting. The state of Georgia passed a law this week, HB 531, that outlaws handing out pizza slices and water to voters waiting for hours to vote. What's that I smell? Freedom. Certainly not pizza, but freedom. Finally, our police officers have the freedom to arrest people for giving others food while they wait to vote. Until now, law enforcement was enslaved to cultural norms and ethics and logic and base level humanity when it came to not imprisoning people for the crime of catering a line of voters. But now
right?
we have true freedom to perpetrate a Nazi-level authoritarian regime in which countless regular human behaviors are viewed as criminal. Why?
As long as you're not serving it to someone, the moment you give it to someone in line, your ass goes to jail. I think that's, it's the transfer is the issue. Now the question is, if you're already in line and you brought pizza and you give it to someone in line, does that mean you go to jail or fined?
Stop at feeding the voters, though, waiting in line? Why stop there? I think we should, nay must, make it highly illegal to eat at all while in line for voting. People might bring their own food or water with them, and we need to make sure that as many as possible pass out or die due to hunger and dehydration. Ever since the ancient Greeks created the idea of voting, one of the core concepts has been survival of the fittest. Every single citizen can cast a vote as long as they survive the feats of strength, which in Georgia happened to include standing in line for 5 hours in the blazing sun without water while listening to the guy.
What was even the reasoning behind this? Well, we know what the reasoning is, right? Voter suppression. That's pretty much what it is. These are Republicans, of course, passing this because that's what Republicans do. They closed down the number of polling places. I mean, yeah, but their statement. What they actually say? Oh, Jesus. We can look it up. We can see what their statement is, but Yeah, how do they rationalize something so fucking stupid? Yeah, we can look that up.
Talk about how women can never be NASCAR drivers. Of course, if killing a certain number of voters through dehydration and hunger is not enough to help the Republicans regain their stranglehold on government, I recommend we add more feats of strength, such as live mountain lions wandering around on election day, nipping at the heels of the elderly. And in order to keep the age-old traditional racist component, which is very important, the racist component of voter suppression, African Americans will be handed bags of 2-day-old squirrel carcasses as they get in line in order to perk up the mountain lions. The Democrats, on the other hand, have been horrified by these underhanded tactics perpetrated by the Republicans. They've been disgusted, revolted, because the Democrats believe voter suppression and sham democracy should be achieved in a completely different way. In their version, they pass a bill in Congress that sounds like it will do wonderful things for public financing of elections, but quietly makes it nearly impossible for third parties to ever threaten the two big corporate parties. Key word, quiet.
Oh, yeah, I heard about that. Yeah. That's, well, I mean, there's psychology behind that. That does make sense. But, if the organization that was giving it out, wasn't like someone, actually, you can't electioneer, right? You can't be a member of a party. Like, you can't be talking about your politics as an organization and handing out food as a way to get votes. So that shouldn't be an issue. That's already, I think, technically illegal, which I think it is, at least.
Without slapping the pizza out of people's hands. The new bill is H.R. 1, and with much fanfare among voting rights, electoral reform, and good government advocates, H.R. 1, the For the People Act, has passed the House. This electoral reform bill is allegedly intended to strengthen voting rights, enhance campaign finance reform, and address government ethics and corruption in politics. Well, boy, that sounds great. I'm sure there's nothing in it that would be detestable and solidify the death grip stranglehold the two corporate parties have in our government. I'm sure it doesn't. I'm sure it does. It does. I don't think it. I'm sure it doesn't have anything like that, right? H.R. 1 contains a poison pill designed to reduce political competition and voter choice by weakening minor parties at exactly a time when, according to a recent Gallup poll, support for a third party is at an all-time high. You see, the past several election cycles, the two big party candidates, the two corporate party candidates, have shunned the federal matching funds program so they can take big dollar donations. This means only the Green Party in recent elections has made use of the federal matching funds. H.R. 1 would solve this minor party, Green Party, quote-unquote, problem by raising the threshold to qualify for matching funds beyond the realistic ability of Greens and other minor party nominees to reach. The bill would simultaneously increase the minimum amount of donations by 500% to a minimum of $25,000 in each of 20 states. That increase would stop third parties from achieving matching funds. So while this bill seems like it's designed to protect and encourage democracy, it actually works to eliminate what little threat third parties have been to the two corporate rotting death spiral parties. But I kind of like this, though. These two stories, they really show the difference between Democrats and Republicans.
It does.
Neither of them wants you voting for anyone but them. The Democrats achieve this by concocting a convoluted, secret, somewhat confusing poison pill that no one really reads in order to crush third parties. Republicans, on the other hand, just slap the pizza out of your hand and then arrest the delivery guy. Welcome to America, land of choices. Would you rather be fucked quietly in the fine print or right in the face in capital letters? It's up to you, because you're a free person.
That's exactly right. And that's pretty much a very powerful example of how different yet the same both parties are, right? Republicans are open about their contempt for your existence and are willing to fuck you straight up by, policy. Democrats are much more coy about it and trying to, not make it a big deal. They have to hide it in other things. Again, incremental suppression, incremental oppression instead of something as blatant as the right does. Yes, good stuff. Good stuff. What's sad that AOC jumped on the Democrats are slightly better train. Yeah. Democrats, they're less. Well, I've talked about this, right? Yeah, I've seen some things on Twitter specifically and a little bit on Facebook as well about AOC, and it definitely seems like she's drank some of the Democrat Kool-Aid, and that's not good. I mean, she was defending the Biden administration for whatever. Oh, about the kids, the kids in cages thing. When it was Republicans, Trump in power, it's not okay. When Biden is in power, it's okay. The kids in cages. They just changed the label, right? I've been a fan of hers for a long time, and I'm starting to that's starting to lessen because of some of the things I'm seeing. Now, arguably, Democrats are in some ways worse than Republicans, because with Republicans, they're gonna fuck you, and they're overt about they're going to fuck you. Democrats, like this example that Lee Camp was showing, is that they're much more subversive about it, and they have better marketing to make you think that they're on your side when they're most assuredly not, as you can see there. Yeah, it's yikes, but it's not her fault either. The system just eats you. Yeah, and that's something I'm also afraid of, as if I run for office, right? I am running for office, that once you become a part of the system and you start meeting the people and listening to the reasoning, and then their reasoning wears down your idealism, and then you become another one of them. And that is something I am so deathly afraid of. It's, not losing my sense of rage. That is something I don't ever want to lose. And I'm so afraid of losing that by becoming assimilated into the Borg of the one party system here. You judge me, do it. I mean, keep me honest. I mean, that's kind of something that if I get into office, like for school board, that is something I'm going to want the constituents to do, to hey, if I'm doing something that's not right, hold me to it and explain to me why I'm being a fucking idiot, because I just might be. Because once you start talking to people, you hear their reasons and so on. It's harder to keep the enemy as the enemy when you know their names and you hear their stories and you hear their logic. Like for me, I've talked about this before a little bit. I saw this interview with Chris Christie, the Republican right-wing shill, horrible human being that Trump told him to go home and insulted his wife and stuff like that. She's just horrible. And I saw this interview with him, and he seemed like a normal human being. It's like, okay, he seems like a normal human being. But then you look at his policies and how corrupt and broken he is, and it's like, oh, okay. So it's the once you get to know them, it can mitigate and make you doubt how horrible they really are, especially once you hear their logic, even though the damage and the harm that their policies and their words cause. It's losing your objectivity is what, once you start working with people, gets you. And I don't want to lose that objectivity. I don't want to lose my rage. I'm afraid of that by running for office. Much like, I think that's exactly what's happening with AOC, right? She's losing that objectivity. She's losing that rage. and she's slowly being assimilated by losing that objectivity. And it's sad because you're finding these politicians that don't lose that objectivity, that don't lose that rage, and don't become assimilated by the one-party Borg is super important, because once you become part of the Borg, the one-party Borg, you start losing that thing that got you into the office, much like what I expect is happening with AOC. I'm not sure about the rest of the squad or what they're doing, but I know they're supporting fucking what's her face, Nancy Pelosi, which is horrific. But yeah. Anyhow, what I want to do, I want to be that asshole that no one honestly kind of wants to work with. I'll call them out on their bullshit and so on. I couldn't believe when AOC was touting how great all things in the Dems were able to negotiate and to keep the third stimulus bill, but basically they negotiated down for no reason because in the end, no. Yes, that's exactly right, Girly Bear. That's exactly why I've been bitching about this. Dems right now control everything. They could pass universal health care, UBI, Green New Deal. They could pass all this shit, but they are choosing not to do it. They don't have to negotiate with anyone. So they, like you're saying, they negotiated it within themselves down for the sake of fucking us over. And that's exactly right. That's because they can say, I don't know what their excuses are here, why they're not doing these things. But I'm sure they have plenty of excuses. Part of, like we've talked about before, pay-go is a huge issue, right? And some of the other things, why they're not doing it. Or they're not getting rid of filibuster, right? The Democrats don't support that, which is fucking ludicrous, because the Democrats don't use the filibuster. Republicans use it all day long to keep actual change from happening, especially ending racism and stuff like that. I mean, it's fucking stupid. Yeah, it's ridiculous what the Democrats are doing, and it's ridiculous that AOC is supporting them. It really is, and again, it makes me. I wrote this a while ago, right? About me. I also love Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez with all of my progressive feels. That's what's in my blog. That's on my About Me page. And I thought about, last week or so striking that from my About Me page, or it may even just putting a delete there so that it's still there, but it's grayed out and cross. It has a strike through, but I haven't done it yet. I mean, it makes me feel sad to actually just have to think that with as much promise as AOC had for, at least working towards radical change. I mean, she's only one person. The squad is only 4 or 5 people, or it's like 6 people now or whatever, versus the 100 and whatever. But still, that amount of change is ridiculous. So we'll see. We'll see how much longer this stays on my blog. Should I watch this? How long is this? 6 minutes. Okay, we can do that.
We passed the COVID bill, everybody. We got it. Checks are coming out. Did we get everything we wanted?
Checks. Just one check. Oh, yes. Just one check. It's $1,400 per person. And they said immediately following this that it cut poverty in half or something like that, which it's fucking ludicrous to say that. In half for half a month? For a week? It's half for how long? Yeah, it's not, quote, in half, like all day. It's just for a very small amount of time. That was like, you gotta be fucking kidding me. If it's not UBI, you shut your fucking face about saying statistics like that. Excuse my French.
Absolutely not. But did we get things?
Why didn't you get everything you wanted? Not freezing rent either? Yep. So basically, yes. Yeah, exactly right. Yes, exactly right. Yeah. Yep. That's the other thing I didn't say that in the previous list I put, but yes, rent moratorium, mortgage moratorium. Exactly right. Exactly right. Yep. We didn't get everything we wanted. Why the fuck didn't you get everything we wanted? Now I'm getting pissed. They didn't have to.
that are going to change people's lives? Absolutely yes. So if you are an adult that makes $75,000 or less as an individual, as a married couple up to 150K, I believe, then you will be getting a stimulus check. If you make more than 80K, you will not be receiving a stimulus check. Now, again, this was a huge point of contention for us. What did we do to fight back? We said,
fight back against who?
If you're gonna try to take this away from people, which we don't agree.
Fight back against who? Who are you fighting it back against? Who? You control everything.
With what we demand is that the first $10,200 in unemployment income that people got in 2020 should be tax-free. And so
unemployment should be tax-free anyhow. You already don't make enough money. You're having problems. I mean, it comes from the federal government or state government or whatever. It should be tax-free regardless.
We won that. Even though they brought it and they said 1,400, what we pushed back with was, okay, if we're going to do that, then we need to include dependents and we need to include adult dependents. So while we wanted it to be 2K for all, what we were able to do is that even though it was 1,400, we were able to bring a lot of people from $0 to $1,400. So everything from bun in the oven to 17 years old, you will get recurring checks this year starting 90 days from now. Between the time you start getting your recurring checks and the end of the year, you will get $3,000 per child above the age of 6 and up to the age of 17. And if you have a child 6 or under, it is $3,600. Unemployment was set to expire like 3 days from now. We have extended it $300 every week through September.
Okay.
If you lost a loved one due to the COVID-19 pandemic last year, and you incurred funeral expenses, burial expenses, any expense for putting your loved one to rest, we will pay you back up to.
Now, I add this to my policies. I don't know. Well, it's probably not this year, probably last year, late last year, that like my economic policies are much larger than any other parties, but paying for burial and death expenses and stuff like that is something I include in healthcare. That's a part of healthcare expenses, so that people don't have to worry about it. It's especially a big deal when, of course, people are impoverished, which shouldn't be a thing under my system, but still, cradle to grave.
$7,000 in expenses.
That's reasonable.
In this bill, if you have COBRA, it will be paid for.
A COBRA is, I think it's a state government funded program for healthcare. I don't know much about it beyond that.
Your premium will be paid for 100% until about September. So you don't need to pay COBRA anymore.
Well, we wouldn't have to if you fucking just passed universal healthcare because you have all the fucking votes you need. Oh, that's right. You don't, because you fuckers are bought and paid for by the healthcare industry. That's why we don't have universal healthcare. Now, AOC is slightly different. She doesn't take corporate money, but it's enraging.
If you get your health insurance off the exchange, there are really important changes that mean you will pay less money and that it will not be as expensive for you. The federal government is also going to cover a larger share of Medicaid expenses for states that haven't expanded through the ACA. if your state has been cutting back services, if they are not hiring fire.
It's a bridge health plan which you pay for, available to you if you leave a job and don't have another job. I think it's available for 18 months. Yeah, that sounds about right. That sounds about right, yeah. Push Dems, left failed, abolishment next. Yeah, and that's what us actual leftists have been saying. I mean, you can't push Biden or Democrats left because you can't push their corporate owners to the left. I mean, it's that vote blue no matter who brain damage that's you push them left after, it's like bullshit. That's not a, oh my God. Rage. So yeah, I talk about the lesser of two evils voting here. If you want to read about it a little bit there. That's just, that's fucking stupid. Oh my God.
If they stopped construction on bridges, if your school is struggling to reopen because they aren't able to make the infrastructure investments necessary, there is money here to help states not cut off their services or restart their services and not have to lay off a ton of people.
Or you could just fucking nationalize the school system.
We all want schools to reopen, but we don't want to put people at risk. And so what this allows us to...
Then why are they doing that? We just read those articles today, right? I mean, actually, last week, the week before. The pressure from the Biden administration is reducing the number of feet between students down to 3 feet. Oh my God.
To do is create a path that is as safe as we can make it to help schools reopen safely. And there's no mandate in this bill, so it's still up to your community and leadership. $28 billion in grants for restaurants, free money, because we know that hospitality, restaurants, bars, venues got hit especially hard during the pandemic. And so they're on top of PPP, there's extra relief targeted to hospitality. And as someone who comes from the hospitality world, that worked in waitressing and bartending and venues, it's just, it's really close to our hearts, especially in New York City. So we're really, really excited to have that provision included in the bill. Now, before everyone gets ahead of themselves, there is not student loan cancellation in this bill, but there is a provision that feels like an Easter egg, which I think gives us some hope. There is a tax provision tucked away that says...
So from what I've heard, right, Biden could just sign off to like an executive order or something to say, just go ahead and cancel student debt, but he's not doing it. Again, here, they could write the law, pass it, and just say, hey, student loans gone, period. But they're just not doing it. They're choosing not to do it because fuck the people.
As if your student loans get canceled, that cancellation, you don't have to pay taxes on that cancellation. There's no student debt cancellation in the bill.
Why?
So this provision...
Of course he does, because if he has Congress do it, then it's not going to get done. Then he can say, it's not me, it's Congress, right? That's why. Because it's the Democrats' job to do as little as possible to make people, think that the Democrats are there to do stuff. Fuck Biden.
That's tucked in. I think tells us, if you care about student debt cancellation, it's go time for you. You need to mobilize, and now is the time to organize, to create the political pressure, because in there, tucked away...
Okay, so create the political pressure. you were elected to create the political pressure. I know some people are bitching at her about that in the squad as well, right? And we're talking about, you know, the AOC specifically being assimilated into the one-party Borg, right? But again, it's that she was elected to put that political pressure on. That's what she should be doing. She should be doing what, you know, I would like to think I would be doing. Basically standing up and going on to social media and saying, hey, these are the people that are saying no to universal health care, Green New Deal, federal jobs guarantee, rent moratorium, UBI. These are the ones who are standing against us. And this is what we need, and this is why. That's what she should be doing. She should be holding a fire to the feet of all these corrupt pieces of shit in Congress and letting the world know about it.
Is almost like a little, someone's paving the path. There's a lot of stuff that there is left to be desired, that we need to build power to get. But the way that we build power is by acknowledging our achievements along the way, hype ourselves up, and then move on to continue on to the next fight. Because we got a lot of fight ahead. We have a lot.
No, okay, all right. So that is fair, right? Now, obviously, the Democrats who are bought and paid for by the corporations don't want to do the stuff that we talk about here on this channel, right? I think AOC supports those things, right? I believe, at least. But obviously, the squad is not the entirety of 100, 200, whatever people in Congress, and they can only do so much, right? There's this limited potential voice of actual reason of what actually needs to be done within the squad and Bernie Sanders and a few others. And that's it. They don't have the collective power to actually go, let's do this. So to be fair to her, the other potential leftists, you know, they are a minority voice, and the fighting for 1400, who are you fighting against, right? I mean, what was that? Anyhow, it's the establishment that they're fighting against and their corporate owners.
Of work ahead, but this is major.
You shouldn't be so excited. All right, thank you for sharing that. But it's crazy that they give hand over feet to the corporations, but pittance to, yes, that's exactly right. And that's exactly the way it should be, right? Socialism for the rich, or not the way it should be, that's the way it is. Socialism for the rich, and pitiful pennies and little handouts and scraps and crumbs for us peasants. Yeah, that's exactly right. And that's the way it's going to be until there's radical change. Every single one of those corporate fuckers need to be primaried and kicked and put out of a job and possibly even in jail. If we can do that, that would be amazing too. Yep. Socialism for the rich, rugged individualism for the rest of us. That's exactly right. All right. Grizzly Bear should have worked harder and become an exploiter yourself. Exactly right. Yes, work harder. Yes, if working hard is what led to billionaire status, you know, parents and teachers and construction workers would be billionaires by now. Oh my God, people. Grizzly Bear, thank you for sharing that. Now I'm really pissed off. Appreciate that. All right, so we're at our 2-hour mark. A little bit over. The wife just got home. Any last comments on this little rage fest? Yeah, thanks again for sharing that. That was rage filled. Questions, comments, suggestions, last comments? Yes, you're good for pissing me off. Yes, you are. Thank you for doing that, though. It's good to hear that, and to get me rage filled. It's been a while since I've been that rage filled. It's been at least a week or two, right? Or maybe just last week. Maybe it's only been a week. Has it been a week? I don't know. Keep doing it. Keep me pissed off. It was last week. Okay. Well, just keep being consistent and keep getting me 2 weeks ago. Okay. So at least you gave me a week break. I appreciate that, though. I appreciate that. Give me a week to calm down and then throw something else at me. All right. So 2 weeks from now, I'll have to remember that. But this song is amazing. Great listen. After stream, don't. Okay. All right. I'll take a look. All right. Anyone else? Any last minute questions, comments, suggestions? Whatever it is, doesn't matter. Got what you've been enjoying. I have been, but I suck at them, and that sucks. I want to get to the point where I'm actually making progress farther than I have, and it's been difficult because I suck. Yeah, I'm one of these people that gets looked down upon. It's called save scum because I'm so tactically challenged. I have to save and then reload when something gets fucked up. So I have to do that because some of these missions are very difficult, and yeah, so it's been interesting. All right, anyone else? I'll probably stay up late tonight too to play. We'll see what happens. After this, I have to take the child out for a walk because it's pretty nice out here. I've got D&D on tomorrow evening. Yes, thank you for showing up. I'm glad you got here earlier, which is awesome. Yeah, Gaming Mind popped in, and I think Quiet Mercenary popped in, and you popped in fairly early, which was really cool. Have a great weekend, everyone. Stay COVID free. Never lose your sense of outrage, right? Find something politically like this that pisses you off every 2 weeks or so you can keep your sense of rage at how shit is so fucked up. All right. Thank you, everyone. Have a great weekend. See you next week. Bye. See ya.
Now it's just me and you.